So former FBI Director James Comey testified in front of the Senate Select Committee and before America last week. And it turned out his ratings are gold. Now, roughly 19.5 million Americans tuned in on Thursday, even though the testimony was at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Western. Now, to just put some of those numbers into context for you, that is about the same number of people who watched Game 2 of this week's N.B.A. Finals between the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the viewership figure released on Friday by the television tracking firm Nielsen did not include statistics for PBS, C-SPAN, or the Fox broadcasting affiliates that carried the hearing live. So obviously this number is a lot bigger than we're reporting right now. Nor did it include streaming platforms or those who congregated at viewing parties, which apparently was a very large percentage because apparently testimonies are our new Super Bowl. Twitter and Bloomberg News also said that their joint live stream reached an average of 129,000 viewers a minute, which is insane. But Trump still gets bragging rights when it comes to ratings because his inauguration brought in 30.6 million television viewers. Now, James Comey also called him a liar, and then Trump called him a liar back. But it turns out that most Americans actually believe what Comey has to say instead of Trump. Now, Huffington Post YouGov poll conducted on June 8 and 9 revealed that 46% of Americans consider Comey to be more honest and trustworthy than Trump. Now, on the other hand, only 26% believed Trump to be the more trustworthy one. And there was a slight difference between political parties there. Figure that. Republicans were far more in favor of Trump, 58%, and chose him as the more trustworthy pick, while 78% of Democrats put their trust in Comey. So we have a problem that our Americans don't trust our president, but then it also, I mean, it didn't really shift people's I guess view of the administration, right? So 43% of those polled said that after Thursday's hearing, even though they didn't trust our president and they trusted Comey more after what he was saying, their view of the Trump administration stayed exactly the same. This is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying.
This is one of those situations in which people get what they want out of it, though. You know, if you're already a Trump hater, if you already feel this administration is an abomination, an insult to what this country stands for, a money grab, an oligarch who has ascended through this already oligarchical machine. If you believe that, then it's yeah, look at James Comey. If you think this guy is a successful businessman, is trying to bring that success to Washington, all he needs is for people to get off his back and let him do his thing, then you kind of view Comey as this guy who's getting in his way. I think this is the country we're living in now. But you're right, when you look at those stark figures, it's hard to believe that everyone isn't on the same page because so many are. Right. You can't trust President Trump. He's demonstrably a liar. We know that.
Well, within the same exact poll, there was a majority percentage of people who also believed that Trump fired Comey over the Russian thing. So even though they want him to bring business back and bring jobs back, whatever it may be, the majority of people still think that they fired him over the Russia thing, which is still whether you're Republican or Democrat, that's still an obstruction of justice.
And I think what we miss in these numbers, right, about ratings and the fact that all of us were tuned in is that there were a large swath of the population who was at work, right? Working class folks they care, but they want to know how this Comey issue is going to land on the ground in their everyday lives, right? So it's important, but I think there is this kind of disassociation between what's going on with Trump and Russia and Comey and the reality show of these trials and my everyday life. I've still got to go to work. I've still got to make ends meet. So how does this affect me personally every day? Whereas the rest of us, I watch because I've never seen so many white men in court, and this is and now we have sessions, this is the best moment of time. I'm gonna keep watching as long as they keep testifying.
I mean, the thing is I think there are a lot of portions of what we're seeing right now with the Trump administration that do appear to be a reality TV. But I think this was like real life. I think this kind of brought everybody down to earth and was like, oh shit, like this is actually happening. He has these contemporaneous memos that are detailing out how effed up our president is. And like he's running our country and he doesn't know. And the excuse that we're getting from Republicans right now is that, oh, well, this is his first rodeo, guys. Like, give him a break. And that's not an excuse for doing these sorts of effed up things.
Yeah, and he did call the president a liar, which is I mean, that was probably the crescendo moment. It came early on, but he did. Comey called him a liar, and the other way it's being really spun is that, well, this is a disgruntled guy because he was fired by this president. So you're here. That's the other way I think the right is spinning it.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, and you know, maybe that's why, even though he's like said in his contemporaneous notes, you know, he wasn't fired yet, and so he felt he had the need to take those. So maybe that's that. I think there's one really big positive takeaway from this, in that like so many people are interested in politics and are seeing, whether they think it's effed up or they think that he's disgruntled or whatever it may be, people are tuning in and want to pay attention. Like even when they can only watch part of it from work via, you know, a Twitter stream or whatever it may be, people are starting to pay attention. They want to be informed. They want to understand what's going on, and hopefully that motivates people and continues the activation that I think we've seen from the resist movement.
Yeah, if that does activate them to become involved in ways more than just watching this reality show, then it's a net win. What I worry about is, they're watching this thing. They're looking for a gotcha moment. Watching TV is fun, especially if there are a bunch of, you know, rich white guys on there lying. I mean, it plays like a Law and Order episode, or you know. But the problem is, there's a lot of other stuff being done in the back rooms of Washington or in the front rooms of Washington. There's still a lot of public land being leased for mineral rights and all the rest. Trump is signing executive orders taking away people's rights left and right. And so I guess, I hope is my point, that you're right, that this activates people to be involved beyond just watching the Comey and ultimately the Sessions testimonies.
Yeah, no, there's one more point I want to make too on Comey's trustworthiness, and a lot of people online sort of made this parallel too, and I put out a tweet when I was watching it because a lot of the Republicans were like, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you tell him this was wrong? Why didn't you say stop? Which is something that I think a lot of women face in the workplace when they're dealing with harassment or something like that, and they deal with that victim blaming. So he still does, even though he sort of experienced something similar to that a lot of women experience in the workplace, he still does have the white male privilege in that the majority of people still think he's trustworthy and telling the truth. So at least he has that on his side.
That's that's what you get when you have women on the panel. You get that perspective. I think that's a very good point. Sure. Yeah, that why didn't you say no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's and obviously, and his answer is probably that answer that, you know, so many people who would be female victims of sexual harassment. I was shocked. I didn't know what to, you know.
Or anybody who's in the face of power and who doesn't want to, you know, lose their job.
Sure. So there's several parallels with sexual harassment, but also racial discrimination that people of color face in the workplace. That it's irrational, right? And I think that that's what we see. That's what I saw when I was watching Comey's testimony. Is that white supremacy, racism, sexism is irrational, right? And that you often don't know how to respond because it's so ridiculous, it's so reckless that your response is then irrational. But instead of calling into question the irrationality of the power structure, you get called into question, right? And they go into his credibility, right? These are folks who were once in support of Comey, who are now saying, you know, he's crazy. And so it does play out in ways that we see racial discrimination and sexual harassment cases play out.
Young Turks now has over 6 billion lifetime views. You know who did that? You did that. We're now larger than CNN, ABC, you name a news network online, we're larger than them. And you built all that as everyone scoffed and didn't believe. And here we are, guys, thanks to you. Build independent media together with us at tytnetwork.com/join.